In this video, we're going to talk about drawing a sketch of a line from an equation. And this is really similar to how we'll draw graphs of all kinds of equations. One of the things that we do in our course is try to understand what kinds of shapes go with which kinds of equations. And the reason for doing that is so that we can visualize the curve that goes with an equation based on plotting a few points and knowing what it should be shaped like. So in the examples I show you here, we know these are going to be lines. These are linear equations. And so if I plot 3 or 4 points, then I'll have, and I have a picture in my mind of what a line will look like, then that should be enough information to draw a good picture. Now, how do I actually plot points? Well, the easiest way is to pick some values for one coordinate and then use the equation to find the corresponding value for the other coordinate. So I have some examples here to illustrate choices you might make for either variable. Choosing the value 0 for a variable makes a lot of sense because it will give us a very simple equation. So for example, in this equation, if I use the value 0 for x, then the equation will say 4 times 0 minus 6y equals 12. That means that minus 6y is equal to 12. If I divide both sides by -6, this will say y equals -2. So what that tells me is that when the x coordinate is 0, the y value, when the x value is 0, the y value has to be -2 in order to satisfy this equation. So I can do the same thing when x equals 1. There's nothing special about 0, but it did make my equation easy. But if in this let me just get rid of that, get rid of this. You can see that what happens if x equals 1 is that I have 4 times 1 minus 6 times y equals 12. And 4 times 1 is 4, of course, so if I subtract 4 from both sides of this equation, it'll say -6y equals, and then 12 minus 4 is 8. So -6y equals 8. Divide both sides by -6 again. I'll have y equals -8 over 6, which can be reduced to -4 over 3. So when x equals 1, y is -4 thirds. Now, we can do the same thing by picking values of y and finding x. There's nothing particularly special about the process one way or the other. If y equals 0, as I have here, then the equation will be 4x minus 6 times 0 equals 12, which means that 4x is equal to 12. And that means, dividing both sides by 4, x is 3. So when the x value is 3, the y value is 0 in order to make the equation true. So like before, if I want to use a different value of y, so let's say we're using -3 for y, then this will be my equation, 4x minus 6 times -3 equals 12. Again, I'm just taking this equation and I'm substituting this value in. Notice that when I substitute in a negative value, I'm always going to carry parentheses with that so I don't confuse myself. I really want this to be minus 6 times -3, and so I want to convey that with parentheses. So this will be minus 6 times -3, so that'll be plus 18. So I'll write that down as an extra step. 4x plus 18 equals 12. Subtracting 18 from both sides means 4x should be -6, and dividing both sides by 4 tells us x is -6/4, which is the same as -3/2. So I'm using the equation, and I'm just picking values of x or y and finding the other value. Notice that it doesn't make any sense for my choices to be super ugly values. I don't pick big numbers. I don't pick odd numbers. I mean, strange fractional numbers. I really want to pick easy to work with numbers. So numbers like 0 or 1 are obvious things to pick. So let me get rid of this. So to draw a graph for this, each of these choices for x and y that go together correspond to coordinates on our graph, where we think of the horizontal axis as x and the vertical axis as y. And so, so 0, -2 would be written this way as an ordered pair. And so I want to find horizontally 0 and vertically -2 would be a point right there. So that's the first point. This point, as an ordered pair, I would write 1, -4/3. So I'm going over 1 and then down 4/3. So 4/3 is 1 and 1/3. So it'll be about there. And that's perfectly fine to use a calculator to get decimal values for your own sanity as you're trying to plot these. Generally, we'll want to give our answers exactly using the fraction coordinates, but when you want to plot it, you really are going to want to know what those decimal numbers are. So that third point is the number 3, 0, so that's over 3 up 0. Should be there. And the last point would be -3/2, comma -3 as an ordered pair. -3/2 is this way, it's -1.5, and then down -3 will be right here. So notice that these points do fall on a line, which is good. One of the reasons for plotting more points than we need is that this will catch any errors that we might make. But I can see that there is a line that goes exactly through these points. And so that would be what we'd consider the graph of the line. So we have this process where we plot a few points by solving the given equation, and then we plot those points on our grid, and we use our knowledge of the shape of the picture. In this case, we know it's a line, so then we can extend that picture as a line, and we really think we have a graph of the incomplete equation.